The drama begins with a lady, Yi-ju, who is seen painting a portrait of her family as she prepares for an important occasion. She doesn't think the painting is very good, and she worries her family won't appreciate it, though radio hosts reassure her on air that the gesture itself will be meaningful. Shortly after, Yi-ju's mother-in-law Jae-suk calls, and her sister-in-law Si-hee transfers the call. Jae-suk, expecting guests soon, instructs Yi-ju to prepare for their arrival. Yi-ju turns to Si-hee for help, but she refuses, leaving Yi-ju to handle everything alone. She cooks, cleans, and ensures everything is ready, only for the guests to arrive unimpressed, and her mother-in-law, displeased with her cooking, scolds her for not ordering takeout instead. Once the guests leave, Jae-suk pressures Yi-ju to convince her father to give her husband, Si-hyuk, a high-ranking position in the family business. Yi-ju insists that her husband enjoys his current job, but Jae-suk dismisses her as naive. On her way to her parents' house, Yi-ju recollects her mother-in-law explaining that Yi-ju's sister, Yu-ra, may get married to Seo Do-guk, who is the CEO of the company where Si-hyuk works, and he may feel bad about working under such a person. Yi-ju gets to her parents' house to present the portrait, but neither her mother nor her sister is home. She calls the office and learns from the manager, Jae-won, that they are attending an important company event, and he tells her to help him bring a document he forgot at the house. Yi-ju gets to the gallery, and she tries calling Si-hyuk, but he doesn't pick up, so she calls his office instead. Soon after, she learns of his resignation, a decision he kept secret from her, which leaves her surprised as he had not informed her. At the event, Yi-ju finally presents the portrait to her mother, Young-hye, only to be met with belittling words. Young-hye coldly reminds her that, as a married woman, her place is with her husband, while her sister Yu-ra laughs at the insult. However, when a client sees Yi-ju's artwork, she is stunned by its realism and praises the accuracy of the portrait. Young-hye, sensing an opportunity, reminds Yi-ju that her paintings are stored in the gallery storage room for free when other painters are paying for them. She says it is because Yi-ju is family, and she tells her to paint more realistic portraits for an upcoming charity event. Naive and still holding her family in high regard, Yi-ju agrees. Later, Do-guk criticizes her painting saying it is fake, but before she can respond, Yu-ra arrives with Se-hyuk, and Yu-ra goes on to praise Yi-ju's painting, but Se-hyuk tells her to stop, which makes Yu-ra, with a mocking expression, ask if he truly loves her sister, and she mocks Yi-ju's love language, teasing her for the way she expresses affection. When Yu-ra's boyfriend, Do-guk, sides with Yi-ju, Yu-ra retaliates by cozying up to Si-hyuk, embarrassing both Yi-ju and Do-guk. Yi-ju, upset, runs into Do-guk after stepping away, and as they talk, he confronts her, bluntly pointing out her naivete and telling her that her devotion to her family is one-sided. Soon after, she notices Si-hyuk acting playful and unusually giddy around Yu-ra, making her even more uneasy. The moment is interrupted when a client requests to see the artwork being auctioned. Yi-ju, and although Jae-won seems to want to stop them, he later agrees to. As he leaves, the client distracts Yi-ju as a man she brought with her secretly examines the painting. Shortly after, the charity auction begins, and the former client places the winning bid, only to publicly humiliate and slap Young-hee, accusing her of fraud. She exposes the company for selling paintings falsely attributed to famous artists, providing evidence of their deception. With an arrest warrant now looming over Young-hye, she refuses to take responsibility, instead throwing Yi-ju under the bus. In private, she urges Yi-ju to take the blame, promising to save her later. Shocked and betrayed, Yi-ju steps away to process everything. As she walks, she overhears Si-hyuk confessing his feelings for Yu-ra, which crushes her completely. Gathering her resolve, she confronts him, only for him to hand her divorce papers, claiming he had been planning to tell her. This leaves her heartbroken, and she leaves the gallery. While driving, her mother calls, demanding that she take responsibility for the scandal. Just as the conversation escalates, Yi-ju gets into a devastating accident and is rushed to the hospital in critical condition. As doctors fight to save her, Young-hye and Yu-ra are informed of her condition. But when no one is watching, Young-hye heartlessly disconnects Yi-ju's life support. As Yi-ju regains consciousness, she reveals her true feelings that she never liked Yi-ju, despite adopting her. Coldly, she advises Yi-ju not to be so nice in her next life before walking away, instructing Jae-won to reconnect the device. Clinging to life, Yi-ju desperately prays for another chance to rewrite her fate and seek revenge. Miraculously, her wish is granted. She wakes up, realizing she has been sent back 1 year before, with a 1-year timer glowing faintly on her wrist. When she and Si-hyuk go wedding dress shopping, she refuses to play the fool and takes control, dramatically breaking off their engagement and effectively marking the beginning of her second chance. Yi-ju informs Si-hyuk that she knows he is in love with Yu-ra and leaves after tearing a slit through what was supposed to be her wedding gown, as he stares at her in shock, unable to deny her claim. At home, Yi-ju tells her mother that she is no longer getting married, but she is ignored. She then leaves to her room, and soon Si-hyuk arrives with Yu-ra, and he tells Young-hee that they would like to postpone the wedding. He comes up with an excuse saying he has been too busy with work and he thinks that it is hard on Yi-ju, but Yi-ju returns, stating firmly that she is no longer interested in getting married to him. He tries to convince her to delay the wedding instead, but knowing he has feelings for her sister, Yu-ra, only strengthens her resolve, insisting that there is no future for them. Yi-ju overhears Yu-ra telling Jung-hye that she is in love with Do-guk and would like to get married first. Since she is determined to get revenge on her family, Yi-ju makes a bold decision that she will pursue Do-guk, knowing it will break her sister's heart. Without wasting time, she visits her friend Sujin, a journalist, intending to use her as a bridge to meet Do-guk before Yu-ra does. Sujin tells her about the Do-guk family, the Taeja's family, and how hard it will be for Yi-ju to catch his attention. Yi-ju reminds her that Yu-ra was able to approach him, but Sujin reveals that Jung-hye made that happen. Sujin then talks about the women in the Taeja family. She starts with Do-guk's grandmother, Madame Lee Taeja, who was a carpenter before building the company. Then there is Cha Yeon-hwa, Do-guk's mother, who never lets his grandmother have the last word. And there is also Dona, Do-guk's sister, who is also crazy. Sujin thinks this will make Yi-ju reconsider, but she only goes on to ask what the other reason is. Sujin then talks about how annoying Do-guk is, but Yi-ju is still not dissuaded, and she tells Sujin to find out where Yu-ra is meeting Do-guk, and she only needs 10 minutes to convince him to choose her instead. The next day, as planned, Yi-ju meets Do-guk just before his date with Yu-ra, offering him an unexpected proposal when she asks him to marry her. Moments later, Yu-ra arrives, stunned to see her sister with Do-guk. But before she can react, Do-guk delivers another blow, announcing that he intends to marry Yi-ju. Furious and frustrated, Yu-ra watches helplessly as Do-guk takes Yi-ju to a hotel room right in front of her. Once inside, Yi-ju gets straight to the point, telling Do-guk she knows that his grandmother will only promote him to CEO of the Taeja group after he gets married. She lays out her terms. After marriage, their finances will remain separate, and he will be free to live as he pleases. She also assures him that she is open to divorce whenever necessary. Meanwhile, Yu-ra, seething with anger, calls Si-hyuk to the lower level of the hotel, telling him that Yi-ju has gone into a room with Do-guk. At first, he refuses to believe her, but as doubt creeps in, he decides to wait for Yi-ju's explanation. Both he and Yu-ra try calling her repeatedly, but Yi-ju ignores their attempts to reach her. Yu-ra later leaves angrily as she asks Si-hyuk what he did to make Yi-ju change so drastically. As the night unfolds, Yi-ju, overwhelmed with emotions, gets drunk and breaks down in front of Do-guk, and in a vulnerable moment, they share a hug, leaving him completely captivated by her. The next morning, Yi-ju wakes up to find herself in bed with Do-guk. She leaves him a note, promising to get in touch later, before slipping away. Upon returning home, she is met with a confrontation as Yu-ra, Jung-hye, Se-hyuk, and Jin-won are all waiting for her. Without hesitation, she declares that she slept with Do-guk and demands they put an end to the chaos. But in response, she is locked in her room. In her room, she remembers several times in the past when she was confined to her room like a prisoner, and she is determined not to live like that anymore. She picks up her phone and searches through the web as she remembers telling Sujin to take pictures of her meeting with Do-guk at the hotel and publish them in the newspaper, an act that will seal the deal, but she does not see any article about them. Yi-ju calls Sujin, who explains that Do-guk's team took down the post to protect his image, and suddenly, manager Jae-won enters her room and seizes Yi-ju's phone, telling her to give up. Meanwhile, Do-guk informs his family of his decision that he intends to marry the eldest daughter of the Hanwol family, and Yi-ju, desperate to escape her family's control, seizes an opportunity. Borrowing a phone from a passing little girl outside her window, she immediately calls Do-guk for help, but as fate would have it, Jung-hye catches Yi-ju as she returns the phone and unleashes her wrath, berating her with cruel words. However, Do-guk unexpectedly arrives and witnesses the altercation. Without hesitation, he approaches Jin-won and formally asks for Yi-ju's hand in marriage. When Jin-won grants his consent, Do-guk wastes no time taking Yi-ju away. Afterward, he takes her out to eat. At first, they go to a restaurant, but Do-guk notices Yi-ju's distress as she tries to eat, and he asks what the issue is. Yi-ju admits that she cannot eat that kind of food, and she only eats pre-made food bought at the convenience store. Without questioning her, Do-guk takes her to a park where they share noodles, and she finally lets her guard down, breaking into tears as she confides in him about her painful reality. She explains that she was once poisoned at home, which is why she is unable to eat any food, as she does not know who to trust. She admits that she wants revenge, and that is why she decides to marry him, but Do-guk is not angry. Instead, in an uncharacteristically tender move, he plucks a flower and uses it to propose. With her heart heavy yet determined, Yi-ju agrees, sealing the moment with a kiss. The next day, Yi-ju wakes up thinking about the kiss, when Sujin calls her to inform her about a news article featuring photos of her kissing Do-guk. The picture wasn't taken down, and she realizes that Do-guk orchestrated that. Meanwhile, Do-guk's manager, who is also his sister's husband, asks if he wants the article taken down, but Do-guk, unfazed, tells him not to worry about it. At home, Yi-ju's adoptive mother, Jung-hye, wastes no time trying to stir up trouble. She confidently claims that Do-guk's family will never approve of their marriage, but Yi-ju, undeterred, assures her family that she will win them over. Jung-hye then asks when the family introduction will take place, and Yi-ju, who is confused, says she will ask Do-guk about it. Later that night, Do-guk has his assistant Byun Jae-ho bring Yi-ju to his home, where he cooks for her. As they sit to eat, he notices her hesitation and quickly eats from his plate to reassure her that the food is okay. She informs him that she knows he is behind the article, and he admits that he did that, so she will not be able to back out of their agreement. Yi-ju says she has no plans of doing that, and he presents her with an agreement for their marriage. Yi-ju, however, requests that he add a formal meeting between their families, and without hesitation, he agrees. Afterward, he asks her to move in, explaining that they will need a base camp, which will serve as their house. Yi-ju hesitates at first, but he gives her a tour of his flat and surprises her, as he shows her a room filled with stuff for her. Before the night ends, she agrees to stay there. Some co-workers at Do-guk's company talk about the news article and how he will be getting married soon. A lady points out that Se-hyuk, who also works in the same company, is also getting married soon. And Byun Jae-ho suddenly realizes that both men plan to marry Yi-ju. Se-hyuk berates the co-workers for spreading fake news as he is frustrated. Meanwhile, his sister Se-hee meets with Yura at a store, and Yura asks if they can convince Yi-ju to marry Se-hyuk. Se-hee says Yura is too nice, and she stares at the cost of a purse until Yura says she will pay for it. Meanwhile, Seo Dona, Do-guk's sister, is also in the store, and her husband, Byun Jae-ho, tells her about his findings on Yi-ju. Dona, who is intrigued, runs into Yura and Se-hee and asks Yura if Yi-ju was engaged to someone else until recently. Se-hee quickly agrees that Yi-ju was engaged, and Yura explains to Dona that Yi-ju was engaged to Se-hee's brother, and their father was the family chauffeur. She then says Yi-ju is not mentally well and has a victim complex as she was adopted. Yura goes on to badmouth Yi-ju until Dona says she did not expect that Yura would have a sister like that. Dona explains that she thought Yura's sister would be like her, who is so desperate to lock down a man that she will wrestle others, tooth and nail. Yura is shocked, and Se-hee tries to support her, but Dona leaves, saying she only trusts her own judgment. Meanwhile, Jae-suk, Se-hyuk's mother, accosts Yi-ju, saying they should talk. Yi-ju refuses, but at Jae-suk's insistence, she tells her to stop trying to suck her life dry. This makes Jae-suk angry, and she drags Yi-ju's hair, asking how she dares to talk to her that way. But Yi-ju only pushes her away suddenly. Se-hee arrives, raising her voice for passers-by to hear, and berates Yi-ju for calling off her wedding to be with a rich man. It turns out the ruse was planned by Jung-hee, as Jae-won was secretly taking a video of the incident. Yi-ju visits her grandfather, Han Woon-jae, at the nursing home, but the man refuses to open the door despite her knocking several times. Jae-won later reports to Jung-hye that he told the staff at the nursing home to call the police if Yi-ju continues to disturb. Yi-ju later meets with her best friend Soo-jin, who offers her crucial advice on how to impress the Taeja family. Her main target is Do-guk's mother, Yeonhwa. Soo-jin suggests the perfect way to win her over is by enrolling in Yeonhwa's prestigious culinary class. Taking Soo-jin's advice, Yi-ju signs up for the class. After the session, she unexpectedly runs into Yeonhwa, who invites her out for coffee. However, Yi-ju isn't the only one invited, as Yura also arrives, and as tensions rise, the conversation turns heated. Just in time, Do-guk walks in, swiftly taking Yi-ju away with him. While driving together, Yi-ju asks Do-guk to take her to his place, and as they get there, they start drinking, unwinding in each other's company, and talking about how to convince their families that they are in love. After a while, Yi-ju gets uncomfortable and tries to convince Do-guk to leave as he is staying at his parents' home, but he reminds her that he has been drinking and cannot drive. Later at night, Yi-ju is unable to sleep and sneaks out of her room to check on Do-guk. She realizes that he is having a nightmare, and she stays with him, wondering what could be the cause of the nightmare. The next morning, an unexpected visitor arrives, Yeonhwa. She finds Yi-ju in Do-guk's home, but instead of making a scene, she surprises them both by calmly accepting the situation, claiming she's progressive enough to overlook it. Instead, she is shocked to see Do-guk sleeping calmly despite the noise. She turns to leave, but before leaving, Yeonhwa requests that Yi-ju arrange a meeting between their families. Without delay, Yi-ju informs her family, and Jin-woong, despite his busy schedule, quickly makes time to attend. Jung-hye insists that they need to be on the same level as the Taeja family, and points out that Madam Lee Taeja will be there. But Yi-ju quickly calls her grandfather, Han Woon-jae, who asks to speak with Jin-woong and tells him he approves of the marriage. Jung-hye is shocked, and she wonders how Yi-ju was able to speak with Woon-jae. In a flashback at the nursing hospital, a nurse tells Yi-ju to leave. She says even with the staff, he pretends not to hear unless it is what he wants to hear. Her words make Yi-ju recall that when she was about to die in her past life, Woon-jae begged her not to die, saying she has not forgiven him, and he does not want to go to hell. Yi-ju wonders what he means, and continues knocking, saying she has forgiven him. Woon-jae quickly opens the door asking if she has truly forgiven him. Yi-ju, who is still confused, says she has forgiven him and hugs him, and the man bursts into tears. Back in the present, Yeju tells her family that she will let them know where Do-guk's family wants to meet. Jung Hye and Jin Woong arrive at Do-guk's family home for the long-awaited meeting. However, Jung Hye, unwilling to let Yeju's marriage go smoothly, begins scheming, creating tension in an attempt to sabotage the union. As the two families settle to eat and discuss, Jung Hye, determined to sabotage the marriage, stirs up trouble to the point where Do-guk's family begins to see through her schemes. Despite this, Yeju manages to leave a good impression by presenting them with a painting, one her mother had previously sold to a client, only to reclaim later. Jung Hye is shocked to see the painting and steps out with Yeju to ask how she was able to get it. Yeju explains and even tells her to call the client to confirm. After confirming with the client, Yeju tells Jung Hye that her wedding with Do-guk will take place, and they will all be there to bless them, so she should round up the family introduction nicely and not provoke her. After the meeting, Jin Woong berates Jung Hye on their way home for her behavior. As they get home, Jung Hye angrily slaps Jae-won, asking how he could be unaware that Yeju got the painting from the client. Later that night, Yu-ra is at a restaurant with Si-hyuk drinking heavily. He tries to reassure her, saying he will talk to Yeju to reconsider, but he is shocked when Yu-ra informs him that they had their family introduction. She then tells him to help her as she is going to take matters into her own hands. Yeju visits her friend Soo-jin, hoping to gain some insight, as she has a deal with Do-guk's mother that she will convince Do-guk to return to the company during the first 6 months of their marriage. During their conversation, Soo-jin unintentionally hints at the strained relationship between Do-guk and his brother, Jung-wook, a detail that lingers in Yeju's mind. Meanwhile, at work, Si-hyuk cannot help but take jabs at Do-guk, who tells him to come out straight. Si-hyuk then talks about how Yeju is only using Do-guk, but Do-guk says he does not mind and will gladly let her use him, leaving Si-hyuk shocked. Later that day, Yeju moves into Do-guk's house, marking a significant shift in their relationship. However, Yu-ra and Si-hyuk are already plotting against her as Si-hyuk approaches Yeju, claiming that Do-guk once tried to kill his own brother, playing on her emotions before pulling her into a comforting hug. Seizing the moment, Yu-ra secretly snaps a picture, setting the stage for more deception. Yeju later calls Soo-jin to confirm the news, and Soo-jin reluctantly tells her that it is true, but the whole family does not talk about the incident. The next day, Do-guk gets news that Jung-wook has decided to cancel Do-guk's company from being in charge of the construction of a huge project. Jung-wook says he is doing that to stop the rumors spreading that Taija Group is linking with Hanwol Group, which is Yeju's family company, since Hanwol's reputation is not that great. Do-guk then goes to the union meeting and sets things right, even gaining the people's respect, which makes Jung-wook annoyed. After meeting with Jin Woong, who asks for help in acquiring a bank, Lee Taija meets with Woon Jae, who returns the money he had stolen from her and begs her to accept Yeju and take care of her. Madam Lee angrily stands to leave, saying he returned the money he stole from her and he is showing off, but Woon Jae kneels to beg her, and the others at the restaurant smile, thinking they are having an affair. Yeju later goes to visit Woon Jae, who says he feels useless as he is unable to help her, and that he needs to pay her properly, as he owes her. As Yeju wonders what he means, she notices that someone is listening to them at the door, and she quickly steps out. She later finds out it is Jae-won and asks him why he is following her. He points out that he is working for Jung Hye, and she replies she knows he is watching her on his own accord as they argue. Yeju notices he is watching her and Jung Hye to decide what team to be on. She tries to make a deal with him, but he says he will think about whose team he wants to be on. Later at night, Do-guk visits Yeju at home, tasting a cake she baked in her culinary class, only to find it completely unappetizing, and without hesitation, he cooks her a simple bowl of ramen, subtly showing his care. During their meal, he suggests that they take their marriage seriously instead of treating it as a contract, but Yeju quickly sets a boundary, reminding him that their deal is only for a year and nothing more. Not long after, Do-guk checks into his usual hotel, unwinding at the bar when Yu-ra suddenly appears. Wasting no time, she makes bold advances toward him, but when her seduction fails, she resorts to another trick by showing him the incriminating photo of Si-hyuk hugging Yeju. Do-guk, however, immediately sees through her manipulation, firmly telling her to stop playing games before walking away, leaving Yu-ra stewing in frustration. Later at home, she takes a lot of sleeping pills, making her fall unconscious. She is rushed to the hospital, where her mother berates her for harming herself. Meanwhile, determined to strike back at Do-guk, Jung-wook devises a plan, calling Yeju and luring her to the yacht, the very place where he claims Do-guk once tried to kill him. Yeju, unaware of his true intentions, arrives at the location, only for Jung-wook to immediately call Do-guk, informing him that he's meeting with his fiancée. Concerned, Do-guk rushes to the yacht, but as soon as he steps on board, his demeanor shifts as unease washes over him, his body weakens, and suddenly, he collapses, leaving Yeju in shock and the mystery surrounding Do-guk's past deeper than ever. After fainting, Do-guk is rushed to the hospital and Yeju immediately goes to see him. Finding him looking reassuringly fine, insisting that everything is okay, she then takes him back to their house, believing everything is under control. The next morning, a psychiatrist arrives at their house, revealing to Yeju that Do-guk suffers from panic attacks. But before the psychiatrist can explain further, Do-guk interrupts, urging her to leave, and calmly reassures Yi-ju that everything is, in fact, fine, and the only thing he wants is that she should not pay attention to Jung-wook. Later that day, Jung-wook invites Yi-ju to meet him, and when she hesitates, he promises to tell her something important about his and Do-guk's story, but she still refuses, saying she would prefer to hear them from Do-guk. Madam Lee also requests to see Yi-ju, and when they meet, she tells her that Jin Woong asked her to help with the acquisition of a bank. She asks for Yi-ju's opinion, and to her surprise, Yi-ju tells her to tell the director in charge to look out for the Hanwol group very thoroughly to ensure that she continues to live up to her name. Meanwhile, Jung-hye speaks with Jae-won, revealing that Woon-jae struck a deal with Taeja to get Yi-ju to agree to their marriage, which makes Jung-hye angry, as she also finds out that Woon-jae also helped Yi-ju pay for the painting she collected from the client. Do-guk and Yi-ju go to a bridal shop for her wedding dress, and Yi-ju is uncomfortable as they get there, as it is the same bridal shop she and Si-hyuk went to. Do-guk is ignorant of this fact, and he ushers her in, saying his secretary says the shop is the best. Meanwhile, the shop attendant mistakenly calls Si-hyuk, thinking he is coming with Yi-ju, and when he gets there, they realize their mistake and apologizes to him. Si-hyuk is about to leave when he notices Yi-ju wearing a gown, but she does not look happy. He angrily barges into the room, accusing her of trying to mock him. He then leaves angrily, saying he wishes her happiness, but he doubts she will be happy. Jung-hye later meets with Jung-wook, and she tells him about Woon-jae's meeting with Madam Lee, and how Woon-jae helped Yi-ju pay to get a painting from a client. She then insinuates that Woon-jae is planning to get the Taeja group, as Woon-jae is not one to part with money easily. Jung-wook later meets with Yi-ju, asking why her grandfather would offer Madam Lee a lot of money. Yi-ju is confused, but Jung-wook goes on to say they should lay their cards on the table and find a way to work together. Before she can react, Do-guk bursts in, enraged, and confronts his stepbrother, attacking him. Jung-wook then says he can push him again, and that he should make sure he kills him this time around. This makes Do-guk angry, and he pushes Jung-wook, who falls to the ground. Meanwhile, Yura is watching the scene from a distance, and she later shares her plan to marry Jung-wook with her mother, asking for her help to set everything in motion. She explains that Jung-wook is the obvious successor to Taeja Group, and marrying him is all she's ever wanted. As they get home, Do-guk points out that he had told Yi-ju not to meet Jung-wook, and she tells him that she wants to help somehow. Do-guk insists that he is fine, but Yi-ju argues that he is not fine, and she lists the issues he has. He then tells Yi-ju that he will only open up to her if she's willing to treat their relationship as genuine, warning her that she should only ask him to share things if she dares to truly listen when the time comes. Yi-ju hesitates, and Do-guk tells her not to touch him if she cannot handle him, as he is holding back enough already. The next day, Yi-ju and Madam Lee visit a shaman who Woon-jae also visits regularly. Madam Lee asks the shaman why Woon-jae suddenly decided to adopt Yi-ju as a kid, and why he is now begging her to make sure Yi-ju marries Do-guk. The shaman then explains that Woon-jae had once caused a pregnant woman to die with her child as he was trying to collect his loan, which made him feel guilty, and when he came to her, she told him to adopt an orphan to wash his sin. The shaman says he is probably trying to do the same by giving Madam Lee the money he owes her to prevent the deceased spirit from dragging him to hell. Madam Lee is shocked to hear this, and she points out that Yi-ju is not dead, but the shaman says she is not sure if Yi-ju is dead or alive. Yi-ju later visits her grandfather Woon-jae. He gives her a picture of her birth mother, revealing that she's actually Jin Woong's daughter and the daughter of Yi-ju's mother. The revelation leaves Yi-ju reeling with confusion and disbelief, so much so that she hides away in the closet, as Jung-hye unexpectedly arrives, spilling more news that she is now working with Jung-wook, who has a better standing in the Taeja group. She tells Woon-jae to transfer his shares to Yura, and she also reveals that she knows Yi-ju is the real daughter of Jin Woong. Things take a darker turn when Do-guk picks Yi-ju up from the police station after the troubling incident, although she's visibly hurt. Yi-ju refuses to speak about what happened, but Do-guk cares for her tenderly, helping her to bed and seeing to her needs. Yi-ju is later seen preparing for her wedding to Do-guk, but as she's getting ready, Jung-hee shows up, speaking down to her. In a moment of fury, Yi-ju grabs a glass, raising it to strike Jung-hee from behind, but just as she's about to swing, someone stops her. It turns out it is Do-guk that stops her, and he asks her if she is trying to ruin everything she has worked for, and she breaks down in tears. Do-guk asks what he can do for her, and she says she needs his help to destroy her family, and he agrees to help her, grounding her in the moment. With that, the two exchange vows, sealing their union, while bowing to their parents. Yi-ju tells Jung-hye that she knows she is the one who prevented her father from attending her wedding. Not long after, Yura crashes the ceremony, boldly appearing in a white wedding gown, clearly hoping to provoke Yi-ju. However, Yi-ju remains unbothered, effortlessly putting her stepsister in her place, refusing to let her ruin the moment. That night, Yi-ju and Do-guk sleep in separate rooms, keeping a certain distance between them. And the next morning, before Do-guk even wakes up, Yi-ju slips away, heading to the beach for a moment of solitude. As she enjoys the calming waves and quiet atmosphere, she suddenly feels lonely as she notices the others at the beach are in a group. Do-guk suddenly appears, surprising her. He tells her he does not like being near the ocean, and he explains the incident where he went to a party on a cruise with his father and brother. He says he wanted to prank his brother, but but he got startled and the phone his birth mother left for him fell into the water. Do-guk says Jung-wook dragged him to get the phone back, but he later fell into the water and hit his leg against the pier, which is why he still uses a walking aid. Do-guk later confesses that he came there as he misses her and likes her a lot, and the two share a peaceful, heartfelt moment, savoring the rare chance to be alone. Meanwhile, Si-hyuk is seen drinking alone as he wonders what the new couples are up to when Yura calls asking to meet him. The meeting quickly takes a turn, and the two end up spending the night together. Back at the beach house, Yeju struggles with her growing feelings for Do-guk, hesitant to let her guard down, but Do-guk senses her unease and reassures her. Meanwhile, Jung-wook himself faces financial troubles, struggling to secure a loan for his department, and his influence within the company begins to waver. The next day at the beach, Yeju helps Do-guk to step into the water, and after a while, he feels calm, and he plays in the water without fear. Later at night, after teasing Yeju so he can sleep beside her on the bed, Do-guk asks why she looks so sad throughout the day. She denies his claim at first, saying she had a lot of fun, but as he continues to talk about it, she finally opens up, confessing the truth about Jin-woong being her biological father. Overwhelmed, she breaks down in tears, and Do-guk holds her, comforting her through the storm of emotions. In a shocking revelation, we see that Do-guk also has a timer on his wrist. Yeju gets a call from her teacher at the culinary school. The teacher, whom Yeju had gifted a painting, informs her that she saw the exact painting with her friend who said he got it in a silent auction. Yeju realizes that Jung-hye has started her plan and she promises to visit her teacher to explain. Yeju goes to her grandfather and he explains that in the past, when her mother was still pregnant with her, she came to him begging that he accept her, but he refused. She came back some years after, begging that he should add Yeju's name to the family registry, but he still refused. Then he later heard that she died in a fire accident, which made him scared, and he went to the shaman. Woon-jae tells Yeju that it is at the shaman's place that he learns that she is his grandchild. After hearing this, Yeju leaves, promising to get revenge. Yeju and Do-guk visit her family, and Yeju proposes that to help relieve her father's stress, she should take over the gallery. This angers Yura and her mother, but Yeju tells them that she knows Jung-hye has been secretly selling her paintings to get money for the gallery. Yura later confides in her mother about her next move, and she insists that the only way to truly get back at Yeju is by marrying Jung-wook. Later that day, Yeju and Do-guk visit Do-guk's family for dinner, and the atmosphere is formal yet tense. Then, out of nowhere, Yura arrives, and with a smug expression, she and Jung-wook make a shocking announcement that they're getting married. Yura and Jung-wook's unexpected marriage announcement leaves the entire family in stunned silence. The tension escalates as Jung-wook and Do-guk get into a heated argument, and Do-guk finally snaps at his stepbrother for always playing the victim. Seeing the situation spiral, Taeja steps in, ordering Jung-wook to take Yura back home. As they leave, Yeju stops Yura and asks her why she is doing that. Yura replies that it is Yeju's fault for not knowing her place. After leaving, Yura, bitter and humiliated, fumes over Jung-wook's failure to earn his family's approval. When she confronts him about it, he coldly brushes her off, making it clear that her problems aren't his to fix, which only fuels her frustration further. The next day, Yeju goes to the gallery and tells Jung-hye she has a way to help them make more sales. Jung-hye is about to taunt her, but suddenly, a lot of reporters enter the room asking to see the artist Yeju. As Jung-hye wonders in shock, the reporters praise her for promoting Yeju overseas anonymously. Yeju later makes a deal with Jung-hye to give her a particular painting, which is the gallery centerpiece, and in return, she will not take her share when her paintings are sold. Yeju later visits her father and tells him about Yura's plan to marry Jung-wook. Jin-woong looks appalled as he knows the shame it will bring to their family, and he promises to stop Yura. Yeju, in the guise of removing Jin-woong's gray hair, picks his hair to use for a DNA test to confirm if he is truly her father. After Jin-woong tells Jung-hye to stop Yura from marrying Jung-wook, Jung-hye tells Jae-won to drive her to the nursing home as she plans to get the shares from Woon-jae. But when they get there, the nurses inform her that Woon-jae had left the nursing home on his own. Jung-hye remembers Woon-jae reassuring her that he will transfer his shares to Yura, and she realizes that Woon-jae had planned it and reassured her so he could run away. She goes to the shaman to ask about Woon-jae, and she informs her that while Woon-jae had not been to her place in a while, Madam Lee and Yeju had come to ask about him, and Jung-hye realizes that Woon-jae has teamed up with Yeju. Meanwhile, Woon-jae, in his hiding place, calls his lawyer and informs him that he plans to transfer his shares to Yeju when the time is right. Determined to dig up dirt on Do-guk and Yeju, Yura meets Se-hyuk that night, hoping to pry some secrets out of him. However, Se-hyuk is unable to give anything away, which frustrates Yura even more as she leaves empty-handed. Yura later pours out her frustration to her mother, saying she is tired of Yeju being better than her. She also says Yeju once said she is the real one, which makes Jung-hye wonder if Yeju knows she is the real child of Jin-woong. Jae-won later informs Yeju about all this, and she realizes that she has to be careful. It turns out he also knows of Woon-jae's whereabouts, and Yeju had given him the painting she got from Jung-hye, as she noticed he always stares at the painting with longing. In search of Yeju, Se-hyuk goes to her house while Yeju and Do-guk are out, and he takes the opportunity to sneak in as Baeun Jae-ho is stepping out of the house. As he snoops around, he stumbles upon their marriage contract, snatching it up before making his escape. Later at night, Yiju unconsciously eats the food Duguk had prepared without waiting for him to taste it first. This surprises him, and he points it out to her. As they smile over that, Yiju asks what he plans to do concerning Youngwook, as she believes he will not back down easily. Duguk says he knows that, and she asks if he will be willing to go back to Teja Group. Duguk says he might as he reminisces about when he was young and Madam Lee took him to a construction site. Si-hyuk later approaches Yiju, trying to strike up a conversation, asking if she truly loves Doguk. But Doguk arrives in time to cut him off, making it clear that Si-hyuk needs to stop bothering his wife. As Doguk pulls Yiju closer in a romantic display, Si-hyuk watches, seething, before storming off. Back at Doguk's family home, Yiju and Doguk return only to find the entire family gathered, including Yura. The tension in the room thickens as Yura reveals the marriage contract to everyone. Yeonhwa asks if it is really a contract marriage, but before the couple can reply, Madam Lee suddenly collapses, sending the family into panic. Madam Lee later tells Yeonhwa that she had thought Doguk and Jungwook would get along when Doguk left the house, but she now realizes that it is not possible as she cannot believe Doguk will make a marriage contract, or that Jungwook would snoop around to reveal that. Si-hee later teams up with Yura to release an article defaming Yiju, to make it seem like she is a gold digger for breaking up with Si-hyuk a month before their wedding and marrying his boss. Si-hyuk, knowing it is his sister's handiwork, quickly calls her and tells her to take down the post, but she refuses, as she has gotten a designer bag from Yura. In the cooking class, tensions arise when one of the participants attempts to provoke Yeonhwa, but before things get out of hand, Yiju steps in, firmly defending her mother-in-law. Later, Yeonhwa brings up the marriage contract, questioning Yiju about it, only for Doguk to join them and plead for his mother's support. He doesn't hold back, listing the countless ways Yiju's own family has mistreated her, hoping to gain Yeonhwa's understanding. Taking matters into her own hands, Yeonhwa decides to confront Young Hae directly. As she arrives, she quickly confirms her suspicions that Young Hae's jealousy and resentment toward her adopted daughter run deep. Wasting no time, Yeonhwa delivers a bold statement that they will not allow Jungwook to marry Yura. Without hesitation, she firmly advises against moving forward with Yura and Jungwook's marriage plans, making it clear where she stands. Not one to back down, Jung Hae confronts Yeonhwa, pressing her on Yiju's situation and whether the marriage contract with Doguk will simply be ignored. Yeonhwa, unwavering, makes her position crystal clear that she fully supports Yiju and Doguk. She also says she has a part in it as she had made a deal with Yiju that she should make sure Doguk returns to the Taija group within 6 months of their marriage. Young Hae accuses Yeonhwa of showing favoritism between Doguk and Jungwook, and she continues to throw subtle insults at Yeonhwa. Yeonhwa then leaves, saying Jung Hae has said the word she has been trying to avoid, and now she no longer needs to act like she cares. Jung Hae quickly calls Jungwook to inform him, and Jungwook tells Yura to make sure she destroys Yiju as it will help him defeat Doguk. Later on, as Madam Lee's health improves, the family gathers for dinner. However, tensions flare when Jungwook once again accuses Doguk of causing his leg injury. This time, however, Doguk comes prepared, presenting undeniable evidence that not only clears his name, but also exposes Jungwook's deception. Despite this, Madam Lee refuses to take sides, detesting conflict between her grandchildren. And in an act of finality, she destroys the evidence, ensuring the matter is put to rest. Shortly after, Madam Lee summons both Jungwook and Doguk for a private discussion. In a surprising turn, she asks Doguk to rejoin Taeja Group, announcing that the company will ultimately go to whichever brother proves himself over the next year, and Doguk agrees to return, saying he will compete with Jungwook. Doguk later confronts Se-hyuk, presenting him with CCTV footage that clearly shows him breaking into the house and stealing the marriage contract. With the evidence stacked against him, Doguk gives him an ultimatum. Either prove Yura's involvement, or he and his sister will face legal consequences. Meanwhile, at the culinary school, some women try to bully Yiju, but she stands firm, and the teacher commends her for that. They share a meal together, and Yiju shares how she must trust the teacher, as she does not eat food cooked by others. Yiju then says she will no longer be coming to the cooking class as she had joined to get close to Yeonhwa, and now that she has achieved that, she needs to focus on other things. The teacher feels reluctant and asks if they can still meet as friends, to which Yiju agrees. Yiju later notices a scar on the teacher, and she explains that she was once burnt in a fire, and she purposely did not have it removed, as it serves as a reminder to her. Yiju later visits Madam Lee to cook for her, and although it is obvious that Yiju is not a good cook, Madam Lee eats the meal after hearing Yiju say she was poisoned as a child, which is why she did not enjoy eating until she met Doguk. Jaewon calls Yiju to inform her that he has located the housekeeper who was blamed when Yiju was poisoned, Lee Jim-young. As they go to see her, Jim-young looks so happy to see that Yiju is still alive and healthy. She later explains that when Yiju started middle school, Jung Hae was always angry, and on a particular day, she was especially mean to Yiju. She says Yiju got sick after eating that day, and the doctor said she had ingested arsenic. Gyum-young says Jung Hae accused her of poisoning Yiju, which made her angry, and she accused her back as it was obvious then that Jung Hae hated Yiju. Her utterance made Jung Hae kick her out of the house, but she later sneaked into the house to see Yi-ju. Kim Young says when she sneaked into the house, Yi-ju was asleep, and she heard footsteps as someone was about to enter the room. She quickly hid in the closet. There, she overheard Jung Hae asking how she dared to grovel back into the house, and if she wanted to die by her hand for good. Jung Young thought Jung Hae was talking to her, but as she was about to step out of the closet, Jung Hae left the room. Jung Young tells Yi-ju to be careful as Jung Hae is two-faced. She explains that Jung Hae would act sophisticated to Jin Woong, but she always complained when he was not there and even brought a guy around sometimes. Yi-ju later visits Woon Jae and tells him everything, and they deduce that Jung Hye was the one who poisoned her, and she must have found out then that she is Jin Woong's biological daughter. Woon Jae tells Yi-ju that Jung Hye was Jin Woong's secretary, and they got together when Jin Woong was feeling lonely after Yi-ju's mother died. Yi-ju says she wants Hanwol as Woon Jae has the largest shares, and he informs her that he is already planning to give it to her. Meanwhile, Si-hyuk refuses to turn on Yu-ra, unwilling to betray her. Do-guk realizes that Si-hyuk seems to love Yu-ra, and he informs him that Yu-ra is with another man. After his sister has been arrested, Si-hyuk realizes that he has been backed into a corner, and he reaches out to Yu-ra for help, but to his shock, she refuses to lift a finger to save him, abandoning him completely. Feeling utterly betrayed, he apologizes to Yi-ju, but she says an apology is not enough, and she calls Soo-jin for an exclusive interview where Se-hyuk hands over evidence that directly implicates Yu-ra in the crime. Meanwhile, at Taija Group's office, Do-guk is officially appointed as director. Jung-wook, desperate to regain control, tries to tarnish Do-guk's reputation by bringing up his wife's background. However, Do-guk quickly turns the tables, urging the board to verify the claims, pointing out that Yu-ra, Jung-wook's own fiancé, is currently under scrutiny for criminal activities, and Jung-wook is left humiliated, unable to defend himself in front of the board. Later, Do-guk and Yi-ju, along with Yeonhwa, go to meet Jung Hye, Jin Woong, and Yu-ra. Under Jung Hye's orders, Yu-ra swallows her pride and approaches Yi-ju, asking for forgiveness, but Yi-ju, standing firm, refuses to accept her apology, unwilling to let her past betrayals slide. Meanwhile, trouble brews as Hanwol's savings bank stock takes a drastic plunge, a situation Yi-ju had promised to manage but ultimately failed to prevent, leaving Jin Woong deeply disappointed in her. The financial crisis soon takes its toll on Jin Woong, and by the end of the day, he falls ill. Seizing the opportunity, Jung Hye manipulates him into temporarily handing over his position, ensuring that she gains full control until he recovers. With this move, Jin Woong becomes trapped in Jung Hye's web, unknowingly playing right into her hands. Elsewhere, Yi-ju visits Woon Jae, hoping he will grant her request for his shares, but to her dismay, he is unable to as Jung Hye, having anticipated this, has used his deteriorating health to block the transaction, further tightening her grip. A chilling realization soon dawns upon Yi-ju and Woon Jae that Jung Hye may have tried to kill Yi-ju as a child before the poison incident. Yi-ju quickly takes a picture of the news article about her mother's death, noting it features the image of the man found guilty of the incident. She sends the picture to Gyum Young, who confirms it's Dong-soo, the same man who visited Jung Hye when Jin Woong was not around. This revelation helps them confirm that Jung Hye orchestrated an arson attack, sending Dong-soo to burn down her home with the intent of killing both Yi-ju and her mother, all to have Jin Woong to herself. Overwhelmed by the weight of this revelation, Yi-ju blacks out. Later, Do-guk tends to Yi-ju, comforting her while urging her to finally reveal the truth to Jin Woong that she is his biological daughter. Yi-ju admits she has been avoiding it for too long and ultimately agrees to tell him everything. Determined to come clean, Yi-ju heads to the hospital to see Jin Woong. Initially, the security guards refuse to let her in, but upon hearing her name, Jin Woong orders them to step aside. Once inside, Yi-ju reveals the truth that she is his daughter. On top of that, she warns him of Jung Hye's scheming, revealing her plan to seize control of his company. Jin Woong denies her claim and says he does not want to have anything to do with her. To prove her point, Yi-ju hands him the results of a paternity test. Still skeptical, she offers him a lock of her hair, urging him to conduct his own DNA test. Meanwhile, Do-guk meets Jae-won at a bar and thanks him for helping out when Yi-ju was being slandered. He asks Jae-won why he is acting against Jung Hye, and Jae-won replies that it's family-related. Do-guk confides in him that he wishes he could kill Jung Hye himself, but since that is impossible, he needs to find something against her. Do-guk later sends Bi-yeon to Jae-won, giving him a huge amount of cash and instructing him to find Dong-soo and bring him in. At the Hanwol group, Jung Hye cuts the salary of the executives and insists even when they try to argue. Yu-ra is seen showing potential clients around the gallery. Jung Hye and Yu-ra are later interviewed and say different things to make it seem like they are the victims. But Yeonhwa is not fooled and urges Dona and Soo-jin to do what they can to help Do-guk and Yi-ju. Se-hyuk also watches the interview and is frustrated. He goes to see Yu-ra and gets there as she is alighting from Young-wook's car. He approaches her and informs her that he will be resigning, but she is indifferent. He leaves angrily saying Jung-wook is just using her, and warns that she will end up like him if not careful. At Do-guk's house, his siblings and Soo-jin gather to celebrate his return to Taija Group. They soon run out of alcohol, so he and Yi-ju go to buy more, only to find everyone working on the list of shareholders at the Hanwol Group to help Yiju know whom to approach. The next day, Do-guk takes matters into his own hands, meeting with Dong-soo, who he had released from prison in hopes of securing a confession. However, Dong-soo refuses to speak, terrified of going back to jail. In a bid to gain the upper hand, Yiju works to rally shareholder support, only to discover that Jamie, her cooking instructor, holds a significant stake in Hanwol. Seeking her teacher's help, Yiju is blindsided by another shocking truth. Jamie is her birth mother. Yiju stands to leave, but Jamie stops her, explaining that she did not abandon her on purpose. She says that after the fire incident, she was in a coma for 6 months, and when she woke up, her father told her that her child was dead. Unable to cope with the grief, she went to America. Jamie explains that her father confessed to lying on his deathbed, and she only recently found out that Yiju is her daughter. Yiju insists she should have been told immediately, and Jamie admits she was unsure if it was okay. She decided to stay by Yiju's side as a friend. Yiju berates Jamie, saying her actions are wrong. As the two hug in tears, Jung-hye, who has been tracking Jamie for her shares, is left stunned when she sees them hugging, realizing Jamie is alive. Jung-hye fears it may not end well for her and starts making her own moves, bribing Woon-jae's lawyer to take her side, setting the stage for yet another trap. Once she has Woon-jae in her grasp, she takes him to an unknown location, trying to force him to sign papers transferring his shares to Yura. Woon-jae refuses and threatens that if anything happens to Jin-woong and Yiju, she will pay for it. Jung-hye then orders her men to lock him away, ensuring he can't interfere or assist Yiju. Later on, Dong-soo meets Jung-hye as she is about to leave the gallery with Yura, and she quickly instructs Jae-won to drive Yura home. As they move to a secluded area, Dong-soo mentions that a good-looking stranger recently questioned him about Jung-hye's involvement in the fire and blames her for not being able to cover her tracks. Jung-hye informs him that he failed to complete the job as both mother and daughter are still alive. Realizing the threat this poses, Jung-hye orders Dong-soo to finish what he started, to kill Yiju once and for all. As tensions rise, the shareholders' meeting begins, and Jung-hye creates chaos, demanding security remove Yiju from the room. Just when it seems like she's won, Jae-won appears, escorting Woon-jae into the meeting. In a commanding voice, he orders security to stand down, ensuring Yiju remains in place. Without missing a beat, he reveals he holds the majority of the company's shares, and opposes Jung-hye's bid to replace Jin-woong. Yiju confronts Jung-hye outside the house, declaring she will find proof that Jung-hye masterminded the fire that endangered her and her mother, ensuring she ends up in jail. In a flashback, as the hall is being prepared for the shareholders' meeting, Jae-won asks one of the staff for the basement storage key. The lady initially refuses, stating that Jung-hye has forbidden entry to the basement, but Jae-won eventually gains entry and finds Woon-jae there. In the present, Woon-jae declares his decision to transfer all of his shares to Yiju, instantly shifting the power dynamic in her favor. Jung-hye argues that Woon-jae is not in the right state of mind because he has dementia. Woon-jae contests this, saying he does not have dementia and that it's all a fabrication by Jung-hye. He promises the shareholders that he will meet with a real psychiatrist to support his claim. Some shareholders doubt Yiju's ability to manage the company due to her lack of experience. However, Yiju, addressing the shareholders confidently, announces her plan to entrust management responsibilities to professionals. Impressed by her composure and vision, the board members begin to rally behind her. Realizing she has lost control, Jung-hye storms out of the meeting. After the meeting, Jamie meets Yiju and admits she was wrong not to tell her she was her mother when she found out, promising to regain Yiju's trust. Fuming, Jung-hye immediately turns to Jin-woong, attempting to manipulate him into siding with her. Her efforts are quickly thwarted because he knows the truth. He accuses her of wanting to take over his company and reveals that he has done another paternity test confirming that Yiju is his real daughter. Yiju arrives with Woon-jae, and they watch the proceedings. Yura also arrives and is shocked to hear that Yiju is the real daughter of the family. Jin-woong immediately severs ties with Jung-hye and sends her out of his house. In a desperate attempt to find an ally, Yura steps forward to defend Jung-hye, but Jin-woong issues a stern warning. If she leaves with her mother, there will be no coming back. Weighing her options, Yura hesitates and ultimately decides to stay behind. Not long after, Jung-hye, now cut off from her resources, attempts to withdraw funds using her company cards, only to discover that all of them have been restricted. With nowhere else to turn, Jung-hye seeks refuge at Dong-soo's motel, requesting a place to stay despite her dwindling finances. Dong-soo later reports to Do-guk that Jung-hye promised to pay him 300 million to kill Yiju. Do-guk then gives him a wiretap to record his conversations with Jung-hye, promising to double what she offered if he can get anything worthwhile. Meanwhile, Jin-woong receives another shocking revelation that Jamie is alive. Overwhelmed with guilt, he expresses his remorse to his father, who tries to reassure him while Yura watches in anger. Meanwhile, at the Taija family house, they discuss Yiju's predicament. Yeonhwa and Madame Lee show their support, while Jungwook silently fumes, hearing that Yiju is inheriting Woon-jae's shares. After learning from his secretary that his stepmother has been promoting Do-guk to other shareholders, Jungwook meets with Yura and advises her to sell the paintings stashed away for the slush fund at the gallery, as she might get fired from the gallery soon. He explains that he will need cash to bribe the executives at Taija Group, and Yura responds that she will think about it. Jung-wook allows her to stay in his hotel room. Do-guk meets his psychiatrist and asks if it will hurt Yi-ju if she learns that he is hiding something from her. She advises him to tell her before she finds out herself. Meanwhile, in the hotel room, Yura discovers that she is pregnant. Initially gripped by fear, she turns to her mother, only to find that Jung-hye sees the pregnancy as an opportunity to manipulate the situation to their advantage, and even praises Yura, saying she takes after her. Jung-hye later meets Dong-soo, and he asks for an advance before taking action. She tries to convince him, claiming that her daughter is the gallery's director and can provide for her. However, unbeknownst to her, Jae-won and Do-guk are closely monitoring Dong-soo and listening in on their conversations. Yura later tells Jung-wook that she is pregnant, thinking he will be against it, but he looks happy and suggests they start a family. Jung-wook later meets his father and informs him that Yura is pregnant. His father points out that Madam Lee might not accept it, but Jung-wook insists he cannot abandon his family. The next day, Dong-soo unexpectedly visits Yura at the gallery, dropping cryptic hints that suggest he might be her biological father. Shaken, Yura seeks out Woon-jae, who confirms her worst suspicions and reveals the full extent of her mother's deceptions, including her connection to Dong-soo. As Jung-hee struggles to make ends meet, she resorts to selling counterfeit artwork to stay afloat and meets Yura to inform her. Yura asks if Jung-hye is truly innocent and if she is genuinely Jin-woong's daughter. Jung-hye reassures her of her innocence and even warns her not to listen to Yi-ju. This makes Yura frustrated, and she tells Jung-hye that the police are aware of her selling counterfeit paintings and are coming to arrest her, prompting Jung-hye to flee. As Jung-hye flees with Dong-soo, Do-guk listens to their conversation and realizes they are heading to Woon-jae's medical facility. He informs Yi-ju, who calls Jae-won to help her. Yi-ju stands outside her grandfather's medical facility, waiting for Do-guk while Jae-won enters the building. Unaware of the impending danger, Yi-ju stands there as Jung-hye makes her next ruthless move and orders Dong-soo to run Yi-ju over before Do-guk arrives. As the situation takes a dangerous turn, Do-guk spots what's happening and crashes his car into Dong-soo's to save Yi-ju. He rushes to her side, hugging her and confessing his fear of losing her again, which confuses Yi-ju. However, the police arrive before she can question Do-guk. The officers arrest Jung-hee, Dong-soo, and Sun-jin, the artist involved in her schemes. Later, at the police station, Jamie arrives, stating the fire incident case will be reinvestigated. Dong-soo quickly provides crucial evidence, a recorded conversation directly implicating Jung-hye in the crime, sealing her fate. Meanwhile, Jae-won steps forward, admitting he is Sun-jin's son, and that Jung-hye faked his death and kidnapped him to raise the value of his painting. Back home, Yi-ju and Do-guk share a moment of relief. Grateful things are finally turning in their favor. However, amid the calm, Yi-ju notices the dates on Do-guk's wrists and realizes they died on the same day. She pressures him for answers, and Do-guk reveals that his car collided with hers, leading to their deaths. Overcome with emotions, she struggles to process the truth as she wonders why he chose to keep the truth from her and decides to distance herself. But Do-guk, ever protective, insists that she stays while he leaves, ensuring her safety. Meanwhile, Jung-wook receives news from his secretary that an employee has died in a construction accident. He decides the company will compensate the family, but won't take responsibility. The issue is reported to Madam Lee, and Jung-wook acts righteous. However, Do-guk soon uncovers the full extent of Jung-wook's cruelty, especially in how he mistreats the grieving widow. As Yi-ju grapples with her feelings, a heartfelt conversation with Jamie offers her a new perspective. Encouraged by her words, she chooses to forgive Do-guk for keeping secrets. Meanwhile, Jung-wook and Yura share news of their pregnancy with the Taeja family, displeasing Madam Lee and Yeonhwa. Yi-ju visits Do-guk, dropping off clothes and asking about the company situation. He admits his confusion as the company will suffer if he continues investigating. Yi-ju points out his silence isn't helping, urging him to act. The next day, Do-guk meets with Jung-wook's secretary, requesting the paperwork of the deceased worker. Though hesitant at first, she agrees to work with him. Determined to make amends, Do-guk exposes the truth to Madam Lee and his father, finally opening up fully and revealing the past he had been hiding. He shows Yi-ju a painting of hers, one she had been searching for. Madam Lee holds a press conference, revealing the truth and apologizing for Jung-wook's behavior, leading to his arrest. Do-guk returns home to pack more clothes and confesses to Yi-ju how he first knew her through her painting. When they met, however, she was already married to Se-hyuk. He also shares how painful it was that his car collided with hers, causing her death. Though devastating, Do-guk's sincerity and remorse allow them to find solace in each other, leading to a tearful reconciliation. Months pass, and the day of judgment arrives. Amidst everything, Yi-ju receives a surprise. She's pregnant. During a visit to her mother, she confirms the news and soon shares it with Do-guk. Overwhelmed with emotion, they share a tender, joyous moment, embracing this new chapter together. However, their happiness is short-lived. Do-guk receives an urgent call from Bayon, requesting an immediate meeting. Upon arriving, he is shocked to discover Jung-wook has been released from prison. Fear grips him as Do-guk rushes home, desperate to ensure Yi-ju's safety. But as he steps through the door, his worst nightmare unfolds. Yi-ju is gone. Youngwook, having escaped from prison, has kidnapped Yi-ju. Meanwhile, Baeun reviews the CCTV footage and makes a shocking discovery that Jungwook's injured leg is perfectly fine. Wasting no time, he informs Do-guk of his brother's exact route, setting things in motion. Inside the speeding car, Yi-ju remains bound in the backseat, but skillfully manages to loosen the ropes, all while keeping Jungwook completely unaware. Just as she prepares to make her move, Do-guk arrives, cutting off Jungwook's escape and forcing him to stop. Do-guk realizes that they are on the same highway, where he and Yi-ju had an accident as he drives towards them. Seizing the opportunity, Yi-ju suddenly wraps her hands around Jungwook's neck, catching him off guard. A struggle ensues. But before she can fully overpower him, Do-guk steps in, leading to a fierce confrontation between the brothers. In the heat of the fight, Jungwook stabs Do-guk, leaving him severely wounded, but despite his injury, Do-guk refuses to stay down. As Jungwook turns his attention to Yi-ju, Do-guk forces himself back to his feet, landing a powerful blow on his brother. Soon the truck that caused the accident in their previous life is seen coming towards them, but as it is about to hit them, it changes its direction. Yi-ju checks the timer on her wrist and realizes that it is gone. Fortunately, before the situation escalates further, the police arrive just in time, arresting Jungwook on the spot. However, Do-guk's condition takes a dire turn, and he is rushed to the hospital, where he is immediately placed in the emergency intensive care unit due to the severity of his injuries. In the days that follow, Do-guk remains under strict medical supervision, his condition delicate even after surgery. Jungwook's father visits him in prison, asking why he acted that way, but Jungwook blames him for leaving his mother. His father then gives him a letter, explaining that it was his mother who left them. Jungwook refuses to believe him, and his father leaves angrily as he disowns him. Jungwook later reads the letter and realizes that he is wrong. Meanwhile, Yura's pregnancy begins to show, and with Jungwook now out of the picture, she finds herself without a place to stay. When the hotel staff forces her to leave Jungwook's room, she turns to his family, hoping for a chance to secure a future for herself and her unborn child. Upon arriving at Jungwook's family home, Yura attempts to convince Madame Lee and the rest of the household to accept the baby as part of their lineage. However, Madame Lee remains skeptical, unwilling to acknowledge the child without proof. She demands that Yura undergo a paternity test, agreeing to accept the baby only if the results confirm that it is truly Jungwook's. Months pass, and the story moves forward. Do-guk, having fought through his recovery, finally regains consciousness, bringing immense relief and joy to Yi-ju. As life begins to settle, Yi-ju's relationships also find new balance as her bond with Yeonhwa grows stronger, and she finally reaches a place of understanding with Jamie, her biological mother. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Si-hyuk returns home, bringing a woman with him. His mother Jae-suk, overjoyed at the prospect of her son settling down, prepares a lavish meal for the guest, already envisioning their future together. However, the mood shifts drastically when Yura arrives, boldly claiming that she is carrying Se-hyuk's child. The shocking revelation shatters the budding relationship as Se-hyuk's girlfriend storms out, leaving Jae-suk furious and deeply disappointed. Later, Se-hyuk confronts Yura, demanding answers, and she finally drops the bombshell that he is the father of her baby. With the season drawing to a close, happiness finally finds its place in Yi-ju's life. She, Do-guk, and their newborn daughter come together for a heartwarming family photo, capturing a moment she had once only dreamed of. Inspired by their journey, Yi-ju paints a portrait of the three of them, sealing their love and a new beginning in art. Yi-ju, having finally found the family she longed for, embraces the happiness she always deserved, bringing the season to a touching, joyful close. If you enjoyed this recap, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and see you next time.